Returned home for the holidays, but my dad opened the door and stated, "You weren't invited. This is for family only." I turned around without a word. Minutes later, my brother messaged, "Don't take it personally. You know how you are." That night, I smiled, froze the joint account, canceled the utility payments, and cut off every card. By morning, my voicemail was full and the group chat was exploding. I, 32M, always thought family meant unconditional love. Growing up, I was the one who helped pay for my brother's college when dad lost his job. I was the one who took care of mom during her cancer treatments while everyone else was too busy. I was the one who co-signed loans, opened joint accounts, and made sure the family house stayed in our name when foreclosure loomed 3 years ago. But apparently, none of that mattered when I showed up at my childhood home last Christmas Eve. The drive from my apartment took 2 hours through holiday traffic. I had been looking forward to this for weeks. Work had been brutal, and I needed this break with family. I pulled into the familiar driveway around 6 p.m., grabbing the bag of presents I'd carefully selected and wrapped for everyone. The house looked warm and inviting, with lights twinkling in the windows and cars parked everywhere. I walked up to the front door and knocked. Dad opened it, and his face immediately changed when he saw me. He told me I wasn't invited and that this was for family only. Then he started to close the door. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds, processing what had just happened. Through the window, I could see my brother, his wife, my sister, and her kids all gathered around the dinner table. They were laughing about something. Nobody even looked toward the door. I turned around without saying a word and walked back to my car. The drive home was a blur. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. 20 minutes into the drive, my phone buzzed with a text from my brother. He told me not to take it personally and that I know how I am. He said they just wanted a peaceful holiday for once. How I am? What did that even mean? I pulled over at a gas station and read the message 3 more times. Then I started thinking about all the times I'd been there for this family, all the money I'd given them, all the sacrifices I'd made. That's when it hit me. The joint account I shared with Dad, the one I'd set up to help with the mortgage payments after his injury, the utility bills that came out of my credit card every month because Mom couldn't manage the online payments, the family cell phone plan that I'd been covering for the past 2 years. I smiled for the first time all day. By the time I got home, I had a plan. I poured myself a drink and opened my laptop. First, I called the bank. I told them I wanted to freeze the joint account immediately due to unauthorized access concerns. The representative was very helpful and froze it within minutes. Next, I logged into the utility company's websites. I canceled the automatic payments for electricity, gas, water, and internet. All of them were set to stop at the end of the billing cycle, which was in 3 days. Then came the credit cards. Dad, Mom, and my brother all had cards linked to my accounts as authorized users. I called each company and removed them immediately. The customer service representatives asked if the cards were lost or stolen. I told them no, I was just removing authorized users, and they processed everything without question. The cell phone plan took a bit longer, but I managed to remove everyone except myself. Their phones would stop working at midnight. I went to bed that night feeling lighter than I had in years. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The group chat that my sister had created years ago for family communication was absolutely exploding. I made coffee and settled in to read through everything. My brother had tried calling me 6 times starting at 6 a.m. Apparently, his credit card had been declined when he tried to buy gas. Dad had called 4 times. The joint account was frozen and the mortgage payment had bounced. Mom called twice about the internet being shut off. But the messages in the group chat were the real entertainment. My sister was asking what happened to the Wi-Fi. My brother was complaining that his credit card wasn't working. Dad was demanding to know why the account was frozen. Mom was panicking about the utility bills. Then my brother figured it out. He sent a long message to the group chat explaining that I must have done all of this because of last night. He was telling everyone that I was being petty and childish. He said I was holding the family hostage over hurt feelings. That's when my sister chimed in. She said I was always dramatic and that this proved I couldn't be trusted. She said no wonder they didn't want me at dinner. I screenshot everything and saved it to my phone. Then I left the group chat. The calls kept coming all morning. I let them all go to voicemail. Around noon, I finally listened to a few of them. Dad's first message was angry. He was demanding I call him back immediately and fix this mess. His second message was more desperate. He was explaining that the mortgage payment would be late and asking me to reconsider. His third message was almost pleading. Mom's messages were different. She was crying in the first one, asking what she had done wrong. She said she didn't understand why I was doing this, and that she just wanted her family back together. My brother's messages started angry, but got progressively more frantic. In his last one, he was admitting that maybe they handled things wrong, but saying that cutting off everything was an overreaction. By evening, the messages had taken on a different tone. My sister called to say they needed to talk. She said the family was falling apart and that I needed to fix this. When I didn't answer, she sent a text saying that if I didn't restore everything by tomorrow, she was going to tell everyone what kind of person I really was. I almost laughed at that one. What was she going to tell people? That I stopped paying for a family that didn't consider me family? Update 1. 3 days passed without me responding to anyone. On the fourth day, my brother showed up at my apartment. I heard him knocking and looked through the peephole. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, and he was wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in through the window on Christmas Eve. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. He started explaining that the whole family was in crisis. The mortgage payment had bounced, and the bank was asking questions. The utilities had been shut off, and it would cost extra to get them turned back on. Everyone's phones were disconnected except for Mom's old landline. He said Dad had to borrow money from his brother to make the mortgage payment, and that uncle was asking uncomfortable questions about our family's finances. He said Mom was barely eating and spent most of her time crying. Then he got to the real reason he was there. He told me that his credit score had taken a hit when the card was canceled with a balance on it. He said he had a job interview next week and needed his phone turned back on. He asked if I could at least restore his phone service temporarily. I told him that was interesting, considering I wasn't family. He looked confused for a moment, then said that of course I was family. He said what happened on Christmas Eve was just a misunderstanding. Dad had been drinking, and they didn't think I was coming because I hadn't confirmed. I asked him about his text message, the one where he told me not to take it personally and that I know how I am. He got quiet then. He said he was just trying to smooth things over and didn't mean anything by it. He said I was overreacting to a few poorly chosen words. I asked him what he meant by, "You know how you are." He couldn't answer that. He just kept saying it was a misunderstanding and that I needed to let it go for the sake of the family. I told him the family made their feelings clear on Christmas Eve. Then I closed the door. He stood outside knocking for another 10 minutes before he finally left. Update 2. A week later, my uncle called me. This was Dad's brother, and we'd always had a decent relationship. He said he'd heard there was some family drama and wanted to get my side of the story. I told him everything. About Christmas Eve, about the years of financial support, about being told I wasn't family. I told him about my brother's text and how everyone in the group chat was calling me dramatic and untrustworthy. My uncle was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then he told me something that changed everything. He said that at Christmas dinner, after I left, the family had spent most of the evening complaining about me. Dad had been saying that I was always trying to control everyone with money. My brother had said that I made them feel guilty about accepting help. My sister had said that I was always playing the victim and making everything about myself. But here's the part that really got to me. My uncle said that when he asked Dad why I wasn't invited to dinner, Dad told him that they decided I was too negative and dramatic to be around during the holidays. Dad said they wanted one peaceful Christmas without me stirring up drama. My uncle said he was shocked because he'd never seen me as dramatic. He said he'd always thought I was the most level-headed person in the family. He told Dad that maybe they should reconsider, but Dad said the decision was final. That's when I realized this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. They had planned to exclude me. They had discussed it and decided I wasn't worth having around. My uncle asked what I wanted to do moving forward. I told him I was done. I said I'd given this family everything I had for years, and they'd repaid me by deciding I was too much trouble to include. He said he understood, but asked if I'd consider family therapy or mediation. I told him that ship had sailed when Dad closed the door in my face. Update 3. 2 weeks after my conversation with my uncle, Mom showed up at my workplace. I work in an office building, and security called to let me know I had a visitor. When I got to the lobby, there she was, looking small and frail. She'd lost weight, and her eyes were red from crying. She asked if we could talk somewhere private. I took her to a nearby coffee shop. She started by apologizing for Christmas Eve. She said she didn't know Dad was going to do that, and she would have stopped him if she'd known. She said she missed me and wanted me to come home. I asked her why she didn't text or call me after it happened. Why didn't she reach out that night to see if I was okay? She said she thought I would cool off and come back on Christmas Day. When I didn't, she figured I needed space. She said she didn't know I'd cut off everything until the bills started bouncing. Then she got to what she really came to say. She told me that Dad had been forced to take out a loan to catch up on all the bills. The interest rate was terrible because his credit wasn't great. She said they were now paying almost double what they used to pay when I was covering everything. She said my brother had to take a second job because his credit card debt was higher than he thought, and without my account backing it up, he couldn't make the minimum payments. She said my sister was angry because her kids had to change phone numbers and all their friends were asking questions. But then Mom said something that surprised me. She said that maybe this was a wake-up call for everyone. She said the family had gotten too comfortable taking my help for granted. She admitted that they'd started to see my support as an obligation rather than a gift. She asked what it would take for me to forgive them. I told her it wasn't about forgiveness. It was about respect. I said that for years, I'd been treated like a bank account with emotions. I was good enough to solve their problems, but not good enough to be included in their celebrations. She started crying then. She said she understood why I was hurt, but that cutting everyone off was hurting the innocent people too. She mentioned my nephew and niece, who didn't understand why their uncle had disappeared. That hit me harder than I expected. I did miss those kids, but I told Mom that the adults in this family had made their choices. They chose to exclude me, and now they were living with the consequences. I said if they wanted a relationship with me moving forward, it would have to be on completely different terms. She asked what those terms would be. I told her I needed a genuine apology from everyone involved. Not just sorry they got caught or sorry about the financial consequences, but sorry for how they treated me as a person. I said I needed acknowledgement that what they did was wrong, not just a misunderstanding. And I told her that any future relationship would be strictly personal. No more joint accounts, no more covering bills, no more being the family ATM. If they wanted me in their lives, it would be because they actually wanted me there, not because of what I could provide. She said she understood and would talk to everyone. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard from her since. Yesterday, I ran into my cousin at the grocery store. She's my uncle's daughter, and we've always been close. She told me that the extended family was split on what happened. Some people thought I was being too harsh, but others said it was about time someone stood up to my immediate family's behavior. She said my uncle had told other family members what really happened on Christmas Eve, and not everyone was sympathetic to my parents' situation. Apparently, several relatives had their own stories about being taken advantage of by my dad over the years. My cousin asked if I was happy with my decision. I thought about it for a moment. Was I happy? I was definitely less stressed. My bank account was healthier than it had been in years. I wasn't constantly worried about other people's problems. I wasn't walking on eggshells trying to keep everyone happy. But I also missed the good times. I missed my nephew asking me to help with his homework. I missed my niece showing me her artwork. I missed the rare moments when the family actually felt like a family. I told my cousin that I wasn't sure about happy, but I was definitely at peace. For the first time in years, I was living my life for myself instead of constantly managing everyone else's crises. She nodded and said that sometimes peace is more important than happiness. As I drove home that day, I realized she was right. I might not be happy about how everything went down, but I was finally free from a dynamic that had been slowly destroying me for years. My phone hasn't rung with family emergencies in weeks. I haven't had to check my account to see what crisis someone else had charged to my card. I haven't had to drop everything to solve someone else's problem. It's quiet now. Sometimes that quiet feels lonely, but mostly it feels like relief. I don't know if my family will ever genuinely apologize or if they'll continue to see me as the villain in this story. I don't know if I'll ever have a real relationship with my nephew and niece again. What I do know is that I finally learned the difference between being needed and being wanted. And I decided I'd rather be alone than be with people who only wanted me around when they needed something from me. The holidays are coming up again next month. This year, I'm planning a trip to somewhere warm and sunny. Just me, a good book, and absolutely no family drama. For the first time in years, I'm actually looking forward to it.